Light is an optimistic teenager who has always dreamed of becoming a famous adventurer, hoping to give his family a life of comfort and ease. Determined to chase this goal, he leaves his tiny village behind and heads to the bustling city to register as an adventurer. But life in the city proves to be far more challenging than he imagined. In this world, the goddess created 9 distinct races, and humans are considered the lowest among them. As a result, they constantly face discrimination, and Light quickly encounters this prejudice as soon as he steps into the city. A beastman adventurer brusquely tells him to move out of the way, and even though Light wasn't blocking his path, he can only apologize. Finally reaching the Adventurers Guild, Light signs up and is told by the receptionist that newcomers like him usually start at F rank. She asks if he has any special talent that might help his evaluation. Excited, Light assures her that he does. He explains that his skill is called Unlimited Gacha, which allows him to summon anything he desires, though the concept is hard to describe properly. To prove it, Light activates his Gacha device. The device rolls out a card labeled fork, and when he releases it, a fork appears on the table, but it's completely bent. Panic sets in as Light tries to explain. He tells the receptionist that things usually turn out better and tries again several times, only to summon a rotten apple and moldy bread. The receptionist sighs, convinced this clumsy human is deserving of nothing more than the F rank. Light accepts it with a grin and asks if there are any jobs he could start immediately. She points him to the bulletin board displaying simple tasks, but Light's confidence falters when he sees it. The receptionist quickly realizes that Light struggles with reading, which isn't surprising given the human's low literacy rate. She tells him he can handle basic labor like carrying stones or gathering firewood, though such work pays significantly less than other jobs. Determined, Light accepts the tasks and, after a full day of hard labor, earns enough to rent a small room. He still relies on his Gacha ability for food, but he feels optimistic about his chances. Unfortunately, a gang of beastmen has other plans. They deliberately block his path so he bumps into them. The Wolfman leader immediately starts yelling at Light for dirtying his clothes. Panicking, Light pleads for the return of his money, explaining he needs it to pay for lodging, but the Wolfman coldly punches him aside, insisting Light owes him for laundry. Left in a puddle of mud, Light hears passers-by tell him to stay in the filthy slums alongside the other humans. Despair fills him, until suddenly, someone extends a hand to help. Instinctively, Light grasps the hand of a beautiful elf, but immediately realizes his own hand is covered in mud. He falls back, apologizing for dirtying her hand, but the elf reassures him that it's no problem at all. She tries to reassure him that she means no harm, but years of prejudice and mistrust make it hard for him to believe her. To demonstrate her sincerity, the elf woman suddenly drops to her knees and embraces him, leaving Light stunned. Even as passers-by mock her for lowering herself for a human, she helps him to his feet. Behind her, a diverse group approaches, representing different races, and they introduce themselves as the party called the Concord of Tribes. They explain that their group was formed with one representative from each species created by the goddess, and they had been missing a human member. The beastman Jeru steps forward first, followed by the elf woman Sasha, who fills Light in on the other members. There is Drago, the dragon newt, Diawolo, the demon, Obro, the Oni, Cyan, the dark elf, Nano, the dwarf, and Jeru adds that they had only been searching for a human to complete their team. Cyan continues, explaining that the party was founded to eliminate racism and build a world where all races are treated fairly. Light finds it almost too perfect to be true, yet he can't resist the opportunity, and he happily joins the Concord of Tribes. Soon, they begin their adventures, with Light clearly the weakest link. He often needs rescuing from monsters by Drago and Sasha, who warn him to be more careful since a single blow could be fatal. Light apologizes for his clumsiness, while Sasha checks him for injuries, instructing him to stay behind the group at all times. The other party members tease Sasha for her obvious affection toward Light, causing her to blush and insist that she sees him only as a teammate. Feeling inadequate because he contributes so little beyond carrying supplies, Light is comforted when Drago tells him that his tea-making skills are more than enough. Overjoyed by the compliment, Light eagerly continues with the party, following them deeper into the dungeon. Eventually, they reach a large, open chamber with a single entrance and exit. The members exchange glances and decide this is the perfect spot for their plan. Unaware of their intentions, Light starts preparing tea for everyone when Drago suddenly approaches and announces that he is being expelled from the party. Shocked, Light struggles to comprehend the words, asking what he did to deserve this. Jeru bluntly explains that it's because he contributes nothing. One by one, the others hurl insults at him, and even Sasha shows disdain, claiming he's useless. The group continues to mock Light and humans in general. He wonders if it's some cruel joke, but they insist there's no time to prank someone as worthless as him. Confused, he asks why they had treated him kindly until now, and they coldly respond that it had all been an act. Drago explains that their superiors had noticed Light's unusual ability and endless gacha, and thought he might become a maestro. Because of that, the Concord of Tribes was instructed to keep tabs on him. But once they concluded Light's talent was useless and he couldn't become a maestro, they signaled for him to be eliminated. Sasha is the most relieved at that decision. The last thing she wants is being forced to wed Light if he turned out to be a maestro. The mere idea makes her shudder. Light doesn't even know what maestro means, but Drago cuts him off, saying they've told him enough and must finish him before other adventurers show up. Jeru immediately imitates Wolverine, extending metal claws and raking Light's face with them. Only then does Light grasp how badly he's cornered. There's no easy escape. Panic-stricken, he bolts, but the bigots mock him and shout that they won't let him flee. Sasha looses an arrow that pierces his leg, Light collapses, screaming, and the racist elves remark that human cries sound like music to them. Jeru begins to torment him further, but Drago orders him to stop. They need the scene to look like a monster ambush. Jeru halves his brutality, preparing to finish the job, while Light, clinging to life, crawls forward. At that moment the floor beneath him starts to glow. He's on a teleportation circle. Drago sees it and snarls for Jeru to kill him before it activates, but the circle completes and whisks Light away. Being rescued from the traitors doesn't mean safety, though. The teleportation trap dumps him somewhere random in the dungeon, and he realizes that one monster encounter here will be the end. Memories of his family flood him as he asks himself what he did to deserve betrayal. He remembers their warm behavior before the knife in the back. Now he understands it was all a ruse to make him trust them, and their true faces showed at the end. Rage wells up inside him and becomes fuel to survive. He rises, vowing to make those bastards pay and tear them apart with his own hands. Before he can unleash more curses, a low growl sounds behind him. Turning, he finds a level 1000 creature staring him down. He panics. The beast looks like something from a nightmare, and realizes he's been sent to the dungeon's lowest floor. Compared to this, being betrayed by his party had been the lesser horror. As Light wonders how he could possibly take on the monstrous foe, his mind drifts to his ultimate gacha gift, and he decides to roll the dice. He presses the gacha button repeatedly, and in an instant, his ordinary gift transforms into something unimaginable. A massive magic circle emerges beneath him, and the gacha device begins powering up. Light doesn't quite understand what's happening, but just as the monster lunges at him, the gacha finishes rolling. Out emerges a level 90999 maidservant, obliterating the monster in a single strike. Everything ends before Light can even react, and the aura-enhancing maid strides toward him. She kneels and instantly mends his injuries, explaining that she couldn't bear to see his flawless skin harmed and healed him without asking. Light is stunned to find himself completely unharmed. Then the maid asks for his name. He tells her he is Light, and she beams with joy upon hearing it. Swearing by the maid's code of honor, she pledges to serve him until her last breath. Light tells her that's fine, but she should introduce herself first. She presents herself as Mai, the ever-seeking maid, revealing that she came from a super ultra rare card in his unlimited gacha. Light can't believe that a level 90999 maid came from what he considered a worthless gift, but Mai requests permission to appraise his gacha to inspect the details. He grants it, and Mai uses her sharing and light vision to discover that his abilities are hidden beneath a strong concealment, invisible to anyone below her level. She explains that his ultimate gacha is far more powerful than he realizes. The rarity of the cards depends on the mana concentration in the surroundings. Mai reveals that there is a tier beyond her super ultra rarity. The surface world is low in mana, but deep within the dungeon, mana is abundant, allowing her to manifest. She praises Light's courage for venturing into the dungeon alone to awaken the full potential of his gift. He admits he's a failure who couldn't reach the dungeon by himself. Tears well up as he recounts how his party betrayed him there. He vents, lamenting how they pretended to want to build a world without discrimination just to deceive him, and vows revenge. Mai embraces him, saying she may not understand his pain, but she'll follow his lead, and taking down those who hurt him will be easy for her. Light stops her, explaining that it's not kindness that restrains him, he wants to exact revenge with his own hands. Yet, he is too weak for now. He swears to make them suffer before he kills them. Mai kneels once more, promising to help him grow strong enough to achieve his revenge. She voices her faith in his potential, and Light can only be grateful. But one overpowered ally isn't enough. He decides to exploit the mana-rich dungeon even further, rolling his unlimited gacha again to summon more high-tier maids, building a kingdom that will serve as the foundation for his grand vengeance. And that's where this episode ends. 3 years had slipped by since that life-changing day, and now Light reigned over a sprawling palace filled with hundreds of devoted maids. Mai stayed faithfully at his side, keeping the promise she made the very first day they met. The maids seemed completely enchanted by him, eager for his attention and cheering him on at every step, while Mai kept a watchful eye, reminding them to act with decorum. Stepping out of the palace, Light made his way to the bustling local market. Everyone there recognized him instantly. One vendor called him over, insisting he join them for breakfast, while others complained about the shortage of popular snacks in town. Light assured them he would address it soon, but Mai quickly interjected, telling him not to concern himself with minor matters. She would ensure the supply chain issues were corrected promptly. Light considered this and realized that with the town's population having skyrocketed over the past 3 years, he would need an entirely new system to handle logistics efficiently. Curious, he asked Mai about the rest of his legendary summons. She explained that Yuki, the beast tamer, was busy mapping areas around the dungeons and scouting forests for potential threats. Light thought about the monsters lurking in those woods but knew they would be no match for a prodigy like Yuki. Mai added that Eli, the mage, was diligently working on crafting the intricate magic spells that were central to Light's grand design. Light couldn't help but wonder if Eli could truly manage the complexity of the tasks assigned, given how convoluted the magic had become. He then asked after Naz, the vampire knight, who excelled in close combat but was not the brightest in other matters. Mai replied that she had assigned Naz to patrol the castle grounds, an occupation that kept her from getting into trouble while leaving her energy directed toward something useful. Light didn't mind. Naz's antics added a certain liveliness to the castle that he secretly enjoyed. Eventually, they returned to the palace, where Light was summoned by Jack, the last of his 4 legendary companions. Jack asked if Light was ready for training. Mai scowled slightly, reminding Jack to address Light respectfully, but Jack, ever the unbothered Sigma, ignored her completely. Light smiled and told Mai it was fine. He considered Jack more like an older brother. He then decided it was time for his session with Jack. At the training grounds, they prepared to spar. In a sudden burst of speed, Light lunged forward, delivering a powerful punch straight to Jack's chiseled abs, sending him reeling with the force of his strength. Jack grinned, impressed by Light's raw power. Any ordinary adventurer would have been knocked out cold by that, he said, but I can take it, I'm built like a tank and can soak up insane amounts of punishment. They clashed once more in the center of the courtyard, fists meeting in a flurry before each took a step back. Light followed up with a rapid series of strikes, which Jack skillfully evaded. Meanwhile, Naz continued her rounds through the corridors, her small head bouncing with every step. She was soon approached by some of the other maids, who cooed and gushed, telling her how reassuring it was to have her patrolling, making sure no danger lurked anywhere. Naz beamed with pride at the praise, exactly as the maids had hoped. Seeing an opportunity for a little fun, they suggested that she check Light's bedchambers to ensure nothing suspicious was happening there. Thrilled at the idea, Naz hurried to the bedroom, only to be surprised when Mai appeared from inside. Confused, Naz asked what Mai was doing in Light's room, since he should have been away training. Flustered, Mai's cheeks turned bright red as she claimed she was tidying up while he was gone. Naz reminded her she needed to keep the room secure, but before Mai could argue, Naz stepped in and immediately noticed the bed was disheveled. Empty-headedly, she commented that it looked like someone had been rolling around on the pillows, sniffing them, and asked Mai if she had done it on purpose. Thinking quickly, Mai used her clumsiness to her advantage and claimed it was her unique way of making the bed. Amazed, Naz asked if she could learn the technique, but Mai shook her head, saying it was a secret skill she wasn't ready to share. Naz then remembered the maids had asked her to deliver a message, so she handed Mai a parchment. Reading it, Mai realized the other maids were upset that she monopolized Light's bedroom and never allowed them to clean it. Mai waved it off and assured Naz she would handle the maids herself, even slipping her a few coins to keep quiet. Grinning, Naz pocketed the money and left, heading straight for the market. After browsing the options, she finally settled on some fluffy pancakes and a glass of fresh milk, happily munching as she made her way back to the castle. There, she spotted Yuki perched on a balcony. Naz asked if her forest duties were complete. Clearly fed up with Naz's chatter, Yuki simply showed her the completed map that Mai had requested and handed it over. Naz congratulated her before resuming her patrol, eventually entering the throne room. Alone in the empty, ostentatious space, she let out a full-throated scream, enjoying the freedom with no one around to stop her. After that, she hops onto the throne itself, fiddling with it carelessly, and accidentally snaps off one of the angel statue's wings. Panic flashes across her face as she quickly shoves it back in place and bolts from the throne room as fast as she can. Meanwhile, back in the training ground, Light and Jack keep sparring fiercely. Jack eventually suggests they call it a day and turn their attention to the bats. They head toward the bathroom, and once inside the massive bathtub, Jack commends Light for picking up all the techniques so quickly. He remarks that Light has grown strong enough that most dungeon creatures would be nothing more than a minor nuisance, though he cautions that there are still those on the surface who would leap at any chance to destroy him. Light's expression hardens, memories of betrayal from 3 years ago flashing through his mind, and he vows that he won't stop until he exacts his revenge. In Mai's chambers, she summons the 4 troublesome maids, reading their letter aloud and demanding to know what they were thinking. Standing before Mai, the maids go silent, unsure of how to respond. They quickly apologize, insisting their intentions were just to show support, knowing how overworked Mai has been. Mai tells them not to concern themselves with her workload and focus on their own duties. She denies their request to clean Light's chambers and instead assigns them the tedious task of scrubbing the hallway leading to the throne room by hand. The maids protest, claiming the corridor is far too long, but Mai insists they keep at it. It will keep them occupied while she's away on a mission with Light. Outside, Naz is pressed against a shop window, staring longingly at a gauntlet she wants but can't afford. She bumps into Ellie, who asks what has her so transfixed. Naz points at the gauntlet and questions why Ellie is back so early, since she's supposed to be supervising a new construction project. Ellie explains that everything is running smoothly, so she decided to sneak a short break. The two soon bicker, each claiming they are closer to Light and more essential. Ellie boasts that she is directly involved in the revenge plan Light is orchestrating, unlike Naz. She adds that she recently shared a pleasant cup of tea with Light to discuss progress and hints at planning a private dinner next time. Naz counters that she too wants tea with their master and reminds Ellie that she's finished with close quarters combat training, so if Ellie ever needs assistance, she knows where to find her. Ellie smiles knowingly, promising she will take her up on that offer someday. With that, Naz returns reluctantly to her dull duties. Back in the castle, the 4 maids were huddled together, scheming against Mai. They whispered that she wasn't any better than that short-tempered man from Germany, debating whether they should secretly report her to Light. But the thought of facing her fury quickly made them think twice. One of the maids remarked that Light clearly cared for Mai because she had been his very first summon. The purple-haired maid added that it had taken him another 2 months to summon Yuki, meaning the two of them had been alone together in the dungeons for a full 2 months. Jealousy flared, and they started acting bizarrely, rolling on the floor in a mix of envy and frustration. Eventually, they decided to perform a bit of voodoo magic, chanting dark spells on the table in hopes of removing Mai from the picture. Fate, however, had other plans. Mai had overheard everything and suddenly appeared, cornering them once more. The maid scrambled to apologize, insisting it was only a twinge of jealousy and that they hadn't meant any real harm. Mai shook her head and told them to stop entertaining such ridiculous fantasies. She explained that during those months between her summoning and Yuki's, Light had been completely absorbed in mastering magic and training in every martial art imaginable, leaving no time for nonsense. The maids felt a wave of relief, and Mai continued, saying she had returned because she initially thought she had been too harsh on them. But after seeing their antics, she realized she had not been harsh enough. With a sly smile, she ordered them to clean the throne room too, pointing out that if they had time for voodoo, they certainly had time for chores. The maids had no choice but to obey, scrubbing and dusting the throne room in complete silence this time. But disaster struck when the green-haired maid clumsily knocked a broken piece of an angel wing, the one Naz had damaged, onto the floor. Panic washed over them as they feared Mai's wrath. The next morning, Light descended into the dungeon to find Naz, Ellie, and Yuki already waiting. He greeted them casually, but Naz and Ellie immediately started squabbling. Suddenly, a shadow shifted, and a hellhound emerged. Light froze, memories of past trauma flooding him as his blood ran cold at the sight of the beast. Despite his strength, the fear remained. The others, however, were undeterred. Rage sparked in their eyes as they watched the hellhound unsettle Light. Naz raised her weapon, ready to tear it apart, while Ellie demanded permission to wipe out all hellhounds from existence. Yuki wondered aloud if she could somehow banish the creature straight to the deepest pits of hell. Their combined auras alone made the hellhound cower, realizing how hopeless its situation was. Light took a deep breath, calming them. He stepped forward, reaching out to pat the creature. Even jokingly, he knew that a single command from him could annihilate the entire species. Turning back to his companions, he declared that it was time to move to the surface and begin their long-awaited plan of revenge. And that's where this episode ends. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.